My name is Dr. Howard Lyon, Senior Chair at the History Department at New Haven College. I'm also the best-selling biographer of Henry V, the man who loved too much. Due to circumstances beyond my control, I find myself with a lot of free time on my hands. So I've turned my biographical prowess to the fictional Cheers verse and written the definitive life story of Frasier Crane, using only the data provided by Cheers, Wings, and 11 seasons of his titular sitcom. In our last episode, we covered Frasier's high school years, from his love of theater to his poor luck with women. Much information was left out for brevity, as most podcast listeners have a very short attention span. For example, did you know Marty had a pet owl named Play-Doh? Of course you didn't. I had to cut it. This information and more is available online, courtesy of my assistant Duncan. He is doing this for free, as my funds have been seized by the state of Connecticut, pending a full forensic accounting investigation. A hearty thank you to Duncan for all the hard work and for all of those delicious Subway brand sandwiches you bring me. Now, to Frasier. In the summer of 1971, Frasier W. Crane started his studies at the prestigious Harvard University. He would later look back at those 4 years as the best of his life. The young scholar truly jumped right in, pledging a fraternity right away. He went through a hazing process, and although the details are vague, the rituals included handcuffs and/or a strapless brassiere. Outside of those antics, Frasier continued to excel in his studies, especially in psychiatry and theater. He played man number 2 in a production of Can-Can, and the experience made him seriously consider giving up psychology for the arts. In addition to his studies and the theater, Frasier also got involved in an aspect of his life he had previously neglected: athletics. At Harvard, Frasier rode crew, played squash competitively, and used fencing to relieve his stress. He showed a lot of promise in these sports, and athletics continued to be an important part of his life for many years to come. I lift weights. The iron just feels right. The struggle. The power. Like many students, Frasier was using his time as an undergrad to figure out just who he was. Believe me, as a professor myself, you see a lot of freaks. These kids get a small taste of freedom and turn into drug hippies. Just horrible. And the smells? Take a shower, for crying out loud. Do some laundry. Unsurprisingly, Frasier began to dabble in activism. He started wearing crystals, he dissolved herbs under his tongue, and listened to whale flute music while exploring alternative medications. It was during this time that Frasier composed a poem called Bangladesh, Dhaka Before the Dawn. He performed it one night at a gathering called the Human Collective. As he recited the opening lines, "I dreamt that I was riding a candy unicorn as I went to meet my lady in the dewdrop crystal morn." Another student joined him on stage. Her name was Nanette Guzman, and with her guitar, she gave his poem a melody. Needless to say, Frasier quickly fell head over heels in love with Nanette. From that moment on, the two were inseparable. They shared their dreams with each other, and despite his allergies, Frasier got along wonderfully with her cat Bobo Blackpaws. In 1974, still an undergrad and very much in love, Frasier Crane married Nanette Guzman. It was a small affair, completely lacking in ceremony. They dashed off to City Hall for the legalities, and afterwards had a little celebration. Nanette invited 50 friends, but 70 showed up to enjoy the free food and drink. This left a bad taste in Marty's mouth, as he was left holding the bill for that magical and expensive evening. Frasier and Nanette's marriage was intense and wild. They could not keep their hands off each other. But even as their attraction burned bright, they would have incredibly intense fights about nothing at all. Their disagreements got so bad that within a few short months, their marriage was over. Incidentally, this is exactly why I encourage the young people of today to wait to get married. Live a little bit. Be young. Only fools rush in. Fools like Frasier Crane. And fools like Dylan McCurdy, the dim bulb who got involved with my ex-wife while the divorce papers were still warm in her lawyer's briefcase. This boy is 20 years old, barely half her age. It's shameful. Shame on you both. But especially shame on you, Dylan McCurdy. You I was instructed to strike this line from my script by my attorney, but I refuse. I refuse! No, I don't care. I hope they listen. I hope they all listen. And they will. They will listen. Despite his personal struggles, Frasier graduated in 1975 with a major in psychology and a minor in music. But his time at Harvard was far from over. Later that year, Frasier returned to campus and enrolled in Harvard's prestigious medical school. He studied with Dr. Bennett Ludlow, an author and educator. Frasier saw the man as an idol. He also studied at the feet of Dr. William Tewksbury, a man Frasier considered his mentor. Between these two men, Frasier learned many important lessons about his field and about himself. It was around this time that the stress of his workload, and perhaps the stress of his short, rocky marriage, got the best of him. Frasier began to manifest many symptoms he was studying about in his textbooks, leading to an unfortunate summer in 1975 when he became impotent. Frasier's brother Niles was at his heels, professionally speaking. During this time, Niles studied psychology at Yale University. He too joined a fraternity, Phi Beta Kappa, and became something of a fixture on the Yale stage. He played Tartuffe in Moliere's play of the same name, and Yale Daily News said he had the magnetism of Marlon Brando, the charm of Danny Kaye, and the range of Laurence Olivier. Like Frasier, he too indulged in his wild side during these formative college years. He took impromptu trips to Vegas, and even stole another man's fiancée. But Niles hit a wall in 1978. During his senior year, he was rocked by a series of misfortunes. After contracting mono, he missed 4 weeks of classes. He studied round the clock to catch up on this missing work, but right before his final exams, his girlfriend broke up with him to start dating his roommate. Niles had a nervous breakdown. He was found curled up in a freezer bin at a nearby grocery store. And during this, a true low point in his life, the person who reached out and saved him was none other than Frasier. Frasier got him the help he needed and kept this low point a secret. None of the other Cranes found out about Niles' downward spiral. As mentioned earlier, I deal with undergrads all the time, and you have to be sensitive about these things because of the PC police. If I had my way, I'd flunk every student with a sob story. Oh, Professor Lyon, my grandmother died. Oh, Professor Lyon, I was arrested at that hippie protest. Oh, Professor Lyon, I caught you stealing Adderall from my backpack when I went to the bathroom. Prove it, Larissa. Prove it. You can't. Frasier, meanwhile, graduated with honors in 1979, specializing in psychosocial behaviorism. In recognition of his many academic achievements, Frasier received a Rhodes Scholarship and went on to attend Oxford University for postgraduate work. During his time in England, Frasier continued to row, even winning a championship with the Oxford team. He still found time to act, appearing in the spring musical as Yum Yum in Gilbert and Sullivan's The Mikado. decorated with honors, accomplishments, and championships, and about to earn a degree from storied Oxford University, Frasier Crane had his whole career in front of him. But he had one little thing left to do: his very first high school reunion. I wasn't invited to any of my high school reunions. Not after what I did. It had been 10 long years since Frasier left the Bryce Academy. Years full of promise and excitement, years of false starts and sad endings. But things were looking up as he attended the 10-year reunion. Unfortunately, that deep-seated sense of inferiority crept back into his life again. It didn't help that he had fallen face first into some poison ivy. He still attended as a blotchy, itchy mess. Frasier ended up sitting with the most pathetic people there, the chess club's barbershop quartet known as the Checkmates. It would not be his last time at this sad table. But he would not let this incident slow him down. As he finished up in England, Frasier looked forward to his new life and new career in a city he had grown to love: Boston, Massachusetts. In our next episode, Cheers. A show I never understood the appeal of. It doesn't show what a bar is really like. No one ever got drunk. No one ever got into a fight. Where were the scenes of unbridled public urination? Nonetheless, it remains an extremely popular program, and I imagine many of you are dying to return to the bar where everybody knows your name. But before we get there, I wanted to briefly discuss a person who we haven't yet touched on: Daphne Moon. The future Mrs. Niles Crane, by my estimation, was born in 1966. So during this time, she was going through a very colorful, very British childhood. She learned to play pool, she discovered psychic abilities, and even starred in a children's TV show called Mind Your Knickers. When Niles is graduating Yale, Daphne is part of a group of, quote, high-spirited, ethnically diverse 12-year-olds in a girls' private boarding school, end quote. Fascinating stuff. I typically would not bring this up at all, as it violates the prime directive of this project, but a reviewer left me a 1-star review saying there's not enough Daphne. Are you happy now? I'm not listening 666? Does this satisfy your sick obsession? Anyway, exciting things to come. I look forward to exploring the rich world of the Crane family further with you. This is Dr. Howard Lyon, and that's a wrap on this episode of The Frasier Files.
Thank you for listening to The Frasier Files. The Frasier Files was researched, written, and performed by Stephen Winchell and developed for audio by Stephen Winchell and Ian Abramson. Directed by Lara Unnerstall, with audio recording and production by Adam Goron. Music by Stephen Winchell and Takuya Yoshida. If you enjoyed our program, please rate and review us on your podcatcher of choice. You can find us on social media at Frasier Files, on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Blue Sky. You can also send us an email at FrasierFilesPod@gmail.com. Thank you again for exploring the rich world of Frasier Crane with us.